Okay, again, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming out. As I said, just want to go over a few things that have changed within the Demosphere platform. If you guys have any questions, feel free to try to put them in the chat or just come off of mute and feel free to, ask away. So the first thing you're going to do, everybody should have been through this already, but you're going to go into your Demosphere team account. So mine's going to look a little different than yours, obviously. You're just going to go into your team. Some of you guys have multiple teams. Majority of you guys have one team. So you're going to pull up your team in the teams page. So I'm going to use an example of one here that has players loaded. So one big feature that is now available to the team managers will be being able or having the ability to print off documents. So when you go into your team, a lot of you guys get new players. Sometimes you're borrowing players for tournaments and such, and you need to get that elusive copy of that medical release form. So instead of going through the coaches or sending an email to us to send you a file, you will now be able to go in and do that on your own for your particular team. And if you're requesting it from another team, their team manager can go in and print that document off for you as well. So they can provide you that information when you're borrowing players for specific events. So in order to do that, you'll see that all the coaching staff and managers are listed here on this particular team. And by scrolling down, I will see the rostered players. Coming down here, you'll see verified, verified, unverified. This means that their birth certificate has yet to be verified, so nothing for you to truly worry about right now. That's something that we kind of do on the back end when we get ready for State Cup and regionals. Your two documents that you'll see right here, that's where you're going to click and you have access to that medical release form. Not many people are putting out the waiver for Nebraska State Soccer, so don't even worry about that. But you would simply click on that particular form and you'll see here, I would be able to go ahead and print this document. It comes up in a small size window, but you could go ahead and print that document up. You don't have to print all 18 of them or open it up and find the one you want and print it off. So easy access right here, printing off your medical release forms. So big plus there for you guys. Another feature that is now available is going to be with NYSL, especially in that league play. You're going to be able to print off rosters and you can even print off passes. NYSL is going to, this is a state-run league, so they're going to allow the print of regular passes on regular paper. The only time you're going to need your state approved rosters on the state paper, and everyone should have a copy. The exception is going to be like this particular team is a spring team, so they would not have those yet when you're traveling to tournaments that require those passes for USYS. Then obviously I will be providing a copy of those to this particular team for them to travel to a tournament or an event outside of something run by Nebraska State Soccer. When State Cup comes up in regionals, they're going to have State Cup roster right here. I'll show you when we get in there. They'll have it available for you to go through and you can actually print it out there. So kind of opening up the permissions for team managers to be able to access more things that you should have access to. You can't make any changes to any of this, so there's no worry there. There's nothing you can do to mess it up, so don't worry about that. You're going to go into your documents. And in your documents, you're going to see a bunch of items here. First of all, we'll go over to the other forms. There is a team contact roster. So if you wanted to keep a contact roster, just, for getting a hold of parents that has all of their information on it, you could go ahead and click on that and print a copy of that. We'll move over to the ID cards or passes. So right here is where the USYS event passes, team player passes, team staff pass. So these, again, USYS event passes, yes, you could have a copy of those, but to have them on official paper, again, they have to come from us at the office. But if you just need passes for going to NYSL, you're fine with printing these passes off. It's actually going to create a file for you. So when you click on the team player pass, you'll see the information here with all the players. I don't have to print everything. I can print a selection if I choose to do that. So maybe you just have one new player and you need to get a pass for them. You could find that particular player and do that. I'm just going to go ahead and select everybody, and I'm going to export this. Sometimes this takes a little while, and this one thankfully is working really quickly tonight. You'll go ahead and open up that file, and you will see the passes. Yes, they look like a little bit different format. This is just, like I said, you can use these in league play. They have the Nebraska State Soccer stamp on them. Don't have to be on the official paper because they already know that we're going to be using this. So you have access to this, and it's as simple as printing it out on regular paper. So another bonus for you guys to go ahead and print those off. You'll have access to the roster. Obviously, there's some other things out here that we don't particularly use. Here's the state league roster. So that's going to be for, you can use that for NYSL. So if you need a copy of your roster, I will tell you that while we're sitting here waiting for this, and I clicked too soon, takes a little while, they will be requiring 2 copies. You'll be going in like you did in the past. So in the past, let's just go a year back, because in the fall, we changed over to Demisphere. Rules were a little bit different coming into a new platform. Prior to that, you had to print off 2 game day rosters, and you had to have them at every game. So we are going back to that process. So you will need to bring 2 copies of the game day roster. So that's the roster that you set when you log into the NYSL website. You're going to print 2 of those and take them with you to each game. So one of those should be held to the referee. And typically, sometimes the other coach will ask for one. The biggest point is going to be going to the referee. That way, coaches can look at them, referees can look at them, and see if anybody breaking any violations for the club passing rules and using players that were not on that roster prior to the close. I'm going to go ahead and open this up real quick. And this would be the roster that you could use for NYSL. It's labeled at the top. This is the roster right here. So if you needed a copy of something, it's going to kind of look similar when you go print off your game day roster, but it's going to be in a game day format, obviously. But this, like I said, it's something for you to be able to print off. You have the ability, this official state roster is there as well. Again, you can't make any changes to it. So if anything needs to be changed, players added, you see somebody that's missing, you see somebody that left the team, a month ago, let me know. And then we make those changes, and then it will show up here when you can go off and just print a copy of the roster. So a lot of handy tools for you. Going back to requirements for this season, as I said, 2 game day reports that you'll need to take with you, those game day rosters. Have your player passes with you, or you can continue to use the digital passes. They still work under that Demisphere app. I think it was TeamNet. I haven't used it for so long. I have to pull it up and look at it again, but you'll still be using that process for that. Let me think of any other points with league play this year. So club pass players, and most coaches should know this. I will be meeting with those coaches in another few weeks. However, 4 is the number. So the number allowed at a max is 4 club pass players to any team. So they truly are going to be looking for this season. So we want to make sure that we are compliant in rostering players the correct way and not doing more than that. So as I said, if your coach is asking you for that, tell them to call me. You can tell them what you learned and they can call me after that point if I haven't talked to them already. So just a few points on that. As far as the actual club passing of players like we used to do about a year ago, the process is going to be the same as we did for the fall. So if you have a player that is going to be club passed, and obviously they're not on your team, you're going to have to send those to me. Once I add them to your team as a club pass player, then they will populate under your roster. So when you pull up your roster for your team, you will see all those players in here. And you'll notice right here that this particular player has been labeled as a club pass player. So you will see that here. And most of the other players will show as rostered. I don't think this particular one is done yet. So most of them will show that they're rostered to the team. And then this particular player, as I said, is club pass. So you'll see that here. And you'll be able to go out and change those players in when you sign into the NYSL team page. You'll be able to go in there and change their status. So kind of similar to what we did in the past. However, you can't go in and just pick somebody's name and add them like we used to be able to do in the previous system. So that's something they're still working on. So until that happens, club pass players have to come through me. Once they're on the team, you can manipulate them however you want. So I would suggest you have a talk with your coach. If they know they're going to be using players frequently from other teams, which they typically do, get the list to me early so that I can get them on there so that you can change them back and forth. Because what happens is we get something Friday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do those kind of things. So I'm going to have everything. I always tell people things have to be in Friday by noon. The reason being we work from home most of the time on Fridays. But in addition to my day job running the office, I also train every day of the week when we hit the season. So I am out on the field. So there's no way I can club pass a player for you. And especially on a Saturday morning, people think, oh yeah, can we just get this in quick? I'm out on the field at 8 o'clock in the morning and I don't get home until about 1:30 in the afternoon. So that's not going to happen. So I just want to make sure that everybody gets everything they need in a timely manner and they get it submitted to me in the proper time frame. One other change that will happen in the fall is that you will have the ability to come in and add and move players on this type of particular roster here. It will not affect your state roster, which is controlled through us. But you can go in kind of that club passing thing that I was talking about, and you'll be able to delete somebody from here, add somebody on, as long as they're within our club. You'll have access to doing that. And they have told us that that's supposed to be ready in the fall 2022. So positive there for allowing you guys to do a lot of different things and having access to do these rather than relying on us. And it gives us some freedom too, to handle all the other things that are going on and not having to deal with so many requests that can be done by yours truly. At this point, are there any questions up to this point?
I have one, Renee.
Okay, go ahead. Who's talking?
So it's Beth Harner.
Okay.
You said 4 club pass players. Is that just at any game or is that on the roster at all times at any time?
Club pass players?
Yeah.
So a club pass player, I can't speak today. What they would be is you'd have your normal roster of, let's just say 16 to 18 kids. And you want to borrow a player, your coaches will do this, they'll borrow a player from another team. So to borrow that player from another team, we don't just simply, there's making people secondary, which really means a secondary player gets time with both teams, plays about 3/4 of the season with this team or half of it, and they're always there playing. A club pass is, Joe got injured, I need to find a new goalkeeper. So we're going to borrow James from, the Chrome team, and we're going to add him on to our NYSL roster so that we can use him in the game. So those are club pass players. And when they're club passed, I'm not rostering them to this team. I'm basically borrowing them. So in the background, I'll go in here and change this from a roster player to a club pass player. And then that shows when you print this out, and even on your game day roster, it should show on there that that's a Club Pass player, and they will see that when they go to check people in. Your Club passing function, you should also have that person's pass on your digital player passes when you pull it up in Demisphere, if that's what you use. If you use physical passes, you'd need to get a copy of that pass from the primary team to have with you at game day. So does that explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, like on pre-academy, we club pass all the time. Will they just all be on the roster then, or will that still be a club pass?
Yeah, pre-academy is a little bit different. So with pre-academy, we probably, what we'll do is just, swap those kids back and forth. That way, when you go to use them, you can pick whoever you want and change it from game to game.
Okay,
So yes.
thank you.
Do I have other questions? Anything else you want to ask about? Because now's the time to see it in action. If you have any questions over anything. Again, another point is if you see anything on your play metrics, people that don't belong or somebody that's missing, just send us an email and we'll get it fixed. I can tell you that when we registered teams this year and when we pull teams over from the fall season and have a spring season, our competitive side all stays the same. But what happens is when they register with NYSL, so when you go out there and register your team for the spring season, it creates another item, so an application of sorts, and that application then gets synced in to the state side, and we don't move anything to do with players. So when all those teams get applied to the league, then they go in, they being Demisphere, push down all the players from the fall and push them into the spring roster. So with that said, when you start looking at your rosters in the next few days here, I don't know if many of you have yet or haven't. That's why I said, let me know if there's somebody that does not belong or anybody's missing, because obviously it's a process they handle. And I don't know that without taking a fall roster and running through every single team and going, hey, I think this player doesn't belong here because they're not matched up. So as I said, make sure you check your rosters, verify your players, and just let us know if anybody's missing or needs to be taken off, and we'll take care of that. So just something to look out for while they continue to change and get the functions set to go as they should have been from day one. So hopefully by the fall of 22, we'll be rolling through the next season and everything will be hunky-dory. When you do get into your NYSL team pages, when you get in there, it's nothing that's changed from the fall season. And I can't really show it to you right now because I can't get into the team that I added myself to. So I'm still waiting for support to help me with getting access to that team. Like the one that I'm in right now, I can't access it in the NYSL website for some reason. So I need to have that conversation because I'll probably wind up adding myself to every team when it comes to the fall of 2020. So when you go in there, you will see features to, by the names of the players. Like I told you, you'll be able to change the statuses. You will see Club Pass and registered. So whenever you borrow a player, you're simply going to click them as Club Pass, not a registered player. Registered players are players that are primary to your team. So anybody else is a Club Pass player. Does that all make sense there? And if they're not, they'll have a little number 2 second next to them being second team. So that a second team on your roster indicates that they're primary to another team. They're secondary to yours. They could also be Club Pass to a third team within our club. So they could also be primary to an NYSL team. Not NYSL, my bad, CYSL team. So they could be playing with 2 teams in our club and they could be playing with their church league. So basically that's it. I told you it was going to be short and sweet. Here for any questions. If you guys run into anything along the way in the next couple weeks, I know league's going to start in 2 weekends. for a lot of teams, and then the following weekend for the remaining. And as I said, if you have any questions along the way, please let me know. If you have any issues with non-payments, team fees being collected, any of those fun things, as I said, please let me know right away and I will take care of it and handle it. If there's nothing else, I'm just going to sit here and wait for the next session to start. And thank you guys for joining me tonight.
Thanks, Renee.
Do you know when they're going to add outdoor practice to Playmetrics?
Outdoor practices, we won't step outside for outdoor training until April 4th. So Carl works on that, and I would assume, where are we at, March 3rd? I'm assuming it's probably going to be a couple weeks before that gets released.
Okay.
But
Thank
yeah,
you.
good question. Mhm. Hey, Jess, I see you joined us. We'll get started around the 6:30 timeframe for the second batch.
Okay, that's fine.